Hi, welcome to Community Focus. I'm Stevens Point Mayor Gary Wescott, and thank you for joining us today again on Community Focus. So much to report to you today here on our program. And of course, as you can tell by my voice, like most of the community, we're working through a cold here, so I ask for your indulgence as we go through all of this information. It's been well reported in the last couple of weeks about the significant news concerning the adjustment of the city's floodplain here in Stevens Point. It's a very interesting project that will impact about 265 different property owners here in our community. It's been a long road to get this work done, and that's something that we have talked about in the area news media and here on Community Focus. A project that began in 1999 when the city of Stevens Point raised a number of concerns over the long-standing classification of the portions of our city east of the Wisconsin River as a high hazard area within the 100-year floodplain. Now, even though the city of Stevens Point, and this was an important point, had not experienced any flooding in the 70 years that the Stevens Point Dam had been raised, the Army Corps, the DNR, and FEMA and others had classified that area as being in the 100-year floodplain, requiring very expensive homeowners insurance to cover a potential flood on property, on homes in that area. Well, as we have talked about before on our program, back in 1999, we went to work to correct that. We felt the city of Stevens Point, under my administration back in 1999, could make a strong and compelling case to the federal government that that wasn't right, that those properties, including over 200 privately owned homes, should not be paying exorbitant rates for flood insurance because the probability of a flood in that area was very unlikely. Well, as we have talked about, the Federal Emergency Management Agency in early January granted the city's request to revise what's called the Letter of Map Revision for the floodplain in the city of Stevens Point, which after 90 days of a public hearing and other required legal matters will take away forever the requirement that homeowners have that flood insurance. Now, it is a major story, and the reason I say that is because perhaps of all the work that had to go into it. What started in '99 was a project that I passed to Mayor Andrew Halverson in 2007 and asked the Mayor-elect Halverson then, to continue please working hard on this project. He did, and he and his staff deserve lots of credit for pushing it forward for the next 7.5 years. As we have talked about in the media, it's a little ironic that in the transition back from Mayor Halverson to Mayor Wescott, the project was waiting to be finished, and we're delighted to report to the committee and to the community that the work is finished. The federal government has agreed to our request, and that will have a significant impact on our community. Now, as with any project, projects are driven by people who deserve credit for long hours of work, and a few people that I would like to at least cite here on Community Focus today would include former Alderman Neil Nealis. It was former Alderman Neil Nealis that brought this to the attention of the community back in 1999, brought it to the attention of our Community Development Director, John Gardner, and John and his staff went to work with the Engineering Department and the Director of Public Works at that time, Director John Van Alstine. John Gardner continued to work on it very hard, very diligently, from '99 until the time that I left in 2007, and I wish to not only recognize former Alderman Neil Nealis, but to recognize John Gardner, our former Stevens Point Community Development Director, for all of the hard work that John put into getting approval from the federal government. Our current Director of Public Works, Scott Schatzschneider, deserves credit too for the last few years of continuing to champion this project, to move this project forward, and to say it's important for our community. As we know, when you're doing paperwork for the federal government, FEMA, for the Army Corps of Engineers, the paperwork can be at sometimes, well, daunting to say the least. There's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of analysis that's required in order to get approval. But we're pleased to report that the process has been approved by the federal government, and that will have some pretty positive effects in our community. Let me give you a couple of examples. At current estimate, there are about 200 homes within the floodplain zone as it exists today. Again, there are about 250 260 various properties within the floodplain zoned either as commercial or vacant properties. So now we'll do some quick math for you. Flood insurance premiums today go for between $1,000 and $1,500 per year for residential homes. So the cumulative economic impact could range from $200,000 to $300,000 every year in flood insurance savings for those people. And frequently, sellers of property in the floodplain that are requiring flood insurance see that those properties are on the market much longer because flood insurance is required. Very shortly, that will no longer be required. Sellers of property that require flood insurance often see a lower purchase price, again because the property is located in a floodplain. That is expected to change too. And of course, many of those properties in the area are in the price range for first-time home buyers, and that again is an important component. So again, as I mentioned before, there's some very good news from the Federal Emergency Management Agency concerning the floodplain in the city of Stevens Point. We do have a little bit more work we have to do, though fundamentally the project is over. We're required to run some public notices in the Portage County Gazette. There's a public comment period where people can either support the change or, I can't believe anybody would be opposed to it, but at least be able to offer testimony in that area. So we again thank those who have worked so hard over the years, many directors of public works, Mayor Halverson, Director Schatzschneider, John Gardner, Community Development Director Michael Ostrowski, and others who have been so involved in making the seawall project a reality here in the city of Stevens Point. And I think it would also be very appropriate at this point to remind our community that the dam and the seawall are owned and operated by Consolidated Water Power Company, which is a subsidiary of New Page Corporation, and without their cooperation on this project, it never would have come to fruition. So a big thank you to Consolidated Water and Power Company, who has coordinated and worked with us over the years. We'll keep you posted on that. Next thing we want to talk about here today is the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point made a very interesting presentation to the Plan Commission just a few days ago concerning the construction of their new science facility and they're planning to build here in the city of Stevens Point. Now, the university at this time requested what's called the Conceptual Project Review, or CPR. Yeah, think about it, for the proposed science building. Now, they're proposing to build a 172,000 square foot chemistry and biology building, and it's proposed to be built on existing Lot X on 4th Avenue, Stanley Street in Fremont. Now, this is a project the university has been working on for some time, and it was presented for informational reasons only in front of the Plan Commission recently. And the university is proposing to build a very big new science and chemistry building on Lot X. Again, as I have mentioned, it'll be 4 stories. At this point in time, the university is still working with state officials and with city officials, and likely we will have them back for formal recommendation in the month of February to the City Plan Commission. Stay tuned on that, but it's an exciting project, a multi-million-dollar project that will really expand the offerings for chemistry and biology at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. I believe the university deserves a lot of credit for putting together an excellent program, an excellent building proposal. If you pause for a moment and think about that whole Stanley Street, 4th Avenue corridor, and what a wonderful addition this beautiful building will make to that area as you are proceeding west into the community from Stanley Street. I think it's an excellent piece of work from the university to take a building and blend it into the existing university environment and to the neighborhood over there. Of course, one of the key questions, and again, I believe the university deserves credit for what happens to all of the parking that's going to disappear from Lot X. There's about 310, 320 parking stalls that will no longer exist in Lot X at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. The university has been working hard and presented to the Plan Commission some ideas to reduce or mitigate the impact of the loss of that parking. And as we record this community focus program, they're probably within 15 or 20 parking stalls of finding different places to park around the university community to offset the loss of Lot X. We'll keep you posted on that. Well, by now, most of you who watch Community Focus, follow the news locally in Stevens Point, know that we have candidates. We have 6 candidates running for mayor. We have so many candidates running for the contested aldermanic positions, and frankly, the news is good. You have certainly, it wouldn't be very hard for us to remember years where you have so many of the aldermanic races where no one is running other than the incumbents. Everybody is running unopposed, maybe 1 or 2 candidates running for mayor. But then we now have 6 candidates running for mayor. We have contested races in all but 1 of our city wards that are up the odd-numbered districts, districts 1, 3, 5, you get the picture. All have races with the exception of District 1. In District 2, we have 2 candidates running. In District 3, we have 2 candidates running. In District number 5, there are 5 candidates running for alderperson. In District number 7, there are 2. And in District 7, the incumbent there, Roger Trepetusky, of course, has announced that he would not seek re-election. And at some point in the near future, we will do more to publicly commend and to thank Alderman Trepetusky for his decade of hard work and service to the community. In District number 9, we have 3 candidates running, and in District number 11, we have 3 candidates running. So we have so many candidates running for alderperson and for mayor in the city of Stevens Point. Now, something that I would personally like to do is publicly invite all candidates to spend some time, meet your department heads down here. I would love very much to spend a few minutes with all of you to answer your questions about candidacy, what may be going on in your ward, if you're a candidate running for mayor, to talk about citywide issues. But I think the most important thing that I would like to see right now is, as we film this program, we are heading into the January meeting cycle. So far in December and early January, most of the candidates who are now in these contested races, for whatever reason, I pass no judgment here, have not attended city committees or the Common Council. But if you are serious about becoming a member of the governing body of the city of Stevens Point, now is the time to start coming to city committees. Now is the time to start coming to the Common Council meeting. City committees meet the 2nd Monday of every month. The Common Council meets the 3rd Monday of every month. And I strongly encourage all candidates, if you are running for mayor. Now, I know we have 3 candidates running for mayor who are alderpersons, so they're automatically at the city committees and the Common Council. But I want to encourage all candidates, and it's a wonderful piece of news that we have so many candidates running in the districts for alderperson, but you absolutely need to start making time to attend the committee meetings that are held on the first Monday of the month is Plan Commission, an absolute critical meeting to make. 2nd Monday of the month, all the city committees. 3rd Monday of the month, Common Council. Please put it on your calendars, get it on your smartphone calendars, and start attending. You will find it beneficial for a number of reasons. You begin to understand the issues that are on these agendas that the council is deliberating with, discussing, analyzing, because they're all moving forward in time. And some of these issues likely will greet you if you are successful in your campaign. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Kathleen Falk from the Department of Health and Human Services. City of Stevens Point was very pleased recently to welcome to the City of Stevens Point a very high-ranking federal official who was here to talk about the marketplace for health insurance and the community enrollment period, the citizen enrollment period, announcing a much easier process for providers in the insurance marketplace, which is open for enrollment. Now, there's information that has been up on stevenspoint.com, an excellent resource for information for some time about getting people to participate in the open enrollment process for health insurance. Information on that and information will run, the open enrollment period runs until February the 15th. And like everything we talk about here on this program, you can usually find more information on whatever I'm chatting about here on Community Focus at stevenspoint.com or, of course, our Facebook page. We can follow us on Twitter. on YouTube. Every time I turn around, John Quirk has come up with yet a new way to effectively communicate with the people of Stevens Point, and we commend him for that. Let's talk a little bit, if I can, about the comprehensive plan update, which is an ongoing process in the city of Stevens Point. Now, as we have chatted before on this program, comprehensive planning is such an important component in determining the direction and the future of a community. Fundamentally pulling the people of our wards, our districts together and saying, let's vision for our future. What do you want this community to look like 15, 20 years from now? Stevens Point planner John Gardner used to frequently remind me that so much of this community is in place and has been in place for a long time. It's an established community. It's been here for over 150 years, but there are opportunities where we can take a look at our neighborhoods, our university neighborhoods, our growth on the east side. What about quality of life issues that we want to be addressing through room tax money? Park and recreation and forestry, such an important component in the city of Stevens Point. This is a beautiful city. If you ever spend any time in the air over Stevens Point, it's like flying over a big park. But it's important, as Michael Ostrowski, our Community Development Director, is working so hard with all of our alderpersons to help determine the course of this city's next generation of comprehensive planning. I can't really emphasize enough how important the comprehensive planning process is and your participation in it. We are very interested in hearing what your thoughts are about what do you want our community to look like in the next 15 or 20 years? What vision would you have for your neighborhood? What vision would you have for our community on the north, south, east, or west side? What would you like to see done along our riverfront? Do you like our park system? What enhancements could you suggest? It's really wide open. But right now, we need to have more of you providing input into the comprehensive planning process. Some of our neighborhood meetings have been very well attended, and some of them, well, maybe we could have used a few more people at them. And sometimes I'm sure weather influences that. But your only opportunity to comment does not just happen at the neighborhood meeting. Many of you communicate with the city through email. Many of you share ideas and thoughts every day in my email inbox. Take time, give some thought, and provide that type of input to our comprehensive plan, and of course Michael Ostrowski, and moving forward from there. What do we want this community to be like? What do we want our neighbors? Because there is so much going on. The university is updating in the process of implementing, and in some aspects updating its master plan. And as the Old Main Neighborhood Association shared with me a few weeks ago, so much of what the university does has a direct correlation or impact into our well-established neighborhoods. So we need to, of course, have in place a plan as to how we address that. Also, let's see, well, there is so much to talk about, and as usual, probably running a little short of time here. Thank you, John. An interesting item came across my desk a couple of weeks ago. It surprised me, and I think those of you who know me know when it comes to governing, I'm not easily surprised. But the question was asked in a legal document that I received: does the public have a right to speak at a government body? The legal answer to that is no. Yes, he said no. It surprised me too. I was completely surprised that there is no statutory requirement that says an open meeting law requires the public be allowed to speak at a meeting. I didn't believe it either, so I had to double check. But after doing the research, the open meeting law in Wisconsin requires that the public be allowed to attend the meeting, the public be aware of the meeting through public notice of the meeting, but the public by state law does not have a right to address a government body unless the government body has made provision for that to happen. Now, I have to tell you, in the first time I was here, and some of the city staff is starting to have some fun with me when I say that, but from 1995 through 2007, I thought that was the law. And we allowed the public to speak on agenda items on all of our committees, including, of course, the City Council. Now, there are some exceptions to that. Obviously, if the law requires a public hearing at the Plan Commission or the City Council, then there is the requirement, and you honor that requirement. But basically what the law said is on an agenda item, other than a public hearing, there is no legal requirement that the public be given an opportunity to speak to their elected officials. I felt that was wrong, and I'm proud that City Clerk John Moe has drafted legislation that will basically correct that, giving the public that 3-minute or 5-minute opportunity to speak to their elected officials, not only at the City Council meeting, but all of the other meetings that are conducted by the City of Stevens Point, from our city committee structure to the redevelopment authority. We very shortly will put in place legislation that will require the chair of those, the presiding officer of those committee or commissions, to basically permit, allow, by requirement, public input. I was surprised that they did not require it. Again, a couple of other quick items here for you. The Department of Transportation in the month of February will be publicly unveiling some ideas the DOT, Wisconsin Department of Transportation, has for the Stanley Street intersection, or interchange I should call it, with I-39. If you envision the area, you know where I am. Marshfield Clinic is out there at the airport. A number of car dealerships in that area. You have some ramps which provide access on and off of I-39. The DOT, I'm told, has been working to change how that is configured. And I have not seen the plan, but at least I've been given a heads up that they request sometime in the month of February to show up and present that to the City of Stevens Point. We want to basically remind you that there is a juried call for outdoor sculpture. That information too is on the city's website. I thought I had information in front of me, John, so you'll have to post something. I know that I've seen it, and it's an important part of this community. When we talk about a community is more than just economic development, police, fire, and plowing snow. Part of an important aspect of a community are the arts, its cultural ability, and a lot of that is influenced by the university here, by the fine theater that Century Insurance has in our community. There is a juried call for outdoor sculptures, and that information hopefully you have seen by now and will be able to follow that. We want to thank you, before I totally run out of time here today, for the overwhelming community response to our request for people to volunteer to serve on commissions, committees, and boards. Last time we recorded this program, there was such a tremendous void in that area. We discovered there were so many openings on various committees and commissions, from historical to transit, you name it, across the board. We put the word out. We need people to step forward, and you did. You did overwhelmingly, and we thank you. We have been able to plug volunteers into those commissions and committees, and I will be making those appointments in the very near future. But don't stop. Don't let me dissuade you from not applying, because what we'd like to do now is what we don't have today, I may very well have in a week or two as resignations occur, as people decide they've served long enough. So please, if you have an interest in serving the City of Stevens Point on our myriad of committees, commissions, and boards, I'd like you to go ahead and submit that email. We're going to build a futures file. We're going to tell people that although we have nothing right now, we're going to build a futures file for the very near future to move on with that. So thank you to the community for an overwhelming response when we requested volunteers. We like to spend just a couple of minutes talking always about ways you can get information in the City of Stevens Point. We like to emphasize that because we work very hard to communicate with the people of Stevens Point, that you know what your government is working on, that there is a level of transparency. Not only will almost everything, but a whole lot more than what I talk about here today appear at stevenspoint.com. There's also information from State Senator Julie Lassa, from State Representative Katrina Shanklin. I know that we work very hard to post their updates, their newsletters, as Senator Lassa and Representative Shanklin are providing information to the community. But between our Facebook, between Stevens Point, between Twitter, sorry, John, there is so much good information out there. And please spend a few minutes and study that. Just want to spend a moment to touch on Stevens Point East Park Commerce Center. It will be the focus of a major program here in the near future, but we're continuing to aggressively work on development of the city's next generation of business park, fundamentally east of where the Portage County Business Park is. Now, when we talk about the Portage County Business Park, and I think most people realize, or you know where that is in the city of Stevens Point. Back in the late 90s and early 2000, the city partnered with Portage County to go together in partnership to create the next generation of business park, the Portage County Business Park. Well, we're seeing some success in filling that over the years, and have gone to work when I was still here back in about 2005 to identify the next generation of business park, that 800 acres fundamentally east of the existing Portage County Business Park. That work continued in earnest after, during my administration, we brought that property into the Stevens Point sewer service area, which was no small task. You have to go to every municipality that is basically in the Stevens Point sewer service district and make the case for why that acreage needed to be added to the city's sewer service plan as part of our comprehensive planning process. We effectively delivered that message, and that land was developed. And then, of course, the work continued under Mayor Halverson and Community Development Director John Gardner and Community Development Director Michael Ostrowski to build the Stevens Point East Park Commerce Center. Well, I think I have just about exhausted the areas that I wish to talk about today, so I'm going to spend one more minute and revisit again what I think is critically important. With so many candidates running for mayor or alderperson, I really feel very strongly, candidates, if you are viewing this message, you will very shortly, if not already, you have been added to the city's mailing list to receive all of the agendas, the meeting notifications. Now is the time for you to start attending city committees, commissions, and the Common Council meeting. It's important that you come prepared to learn, to listen, introduce yourself. I'd love to meet you, hear why you're interested in running for mayor or for the city council. But I think it's absolutely critical that with only a few months until the election, until potentially you're part of the governing process in this city, that you need to be at the committees and you need to start asking questions, start assimilating the knowledge as to what we are working on for the people of Stevens Point. Well, I about exhausted what I wanted to talk about here today, and as always, I want to thank John Quirk and his staff for their patience in working on this program, and thank you for spending time and joining us on Community Focus. And as always, if there are issues you'd like me to address on our program, I'm happy to do that. Please contact me here in the mayor's office. Love to hear from you, love to talk to you, love to talk about what we're working on in the wonderful city of Stevens Point. Thank you for joining us today on Community Focus.